Hi, and welcome to Mindset Mastery. My name is Corey Hirsch, and I'm a therapist and a mindset consultant, and I'm really happy you're here today. So today we're going to talk about taking action as a way to improve your self-esteem. Here are 5 steps you can take to improve your self-esteem. When we talk about self-esteem, we're talking about the way we think about ourselves. When we have good self-esteem, we see ourselves as a positive force in the world. On the other hand, when we have low self-esteem, we think of ourselves in a negative way. Low self-esteem takes a huge toll on your psyche when you stay in negative thoughts day in and day out over a long period of time. Sometimes our self-esteem is so low that it feels like we're in quicksand and there's no way out. A few years ago, my self-esteem was at an all-time low. I felt lost and confused, and when I tried to build my self-esteem, affirmations just were not doing it for me. Let's take a look at this diagram of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. If you notice, the arrows go both ways, and so if you want to change the way you feel, you need to change either your thoughts or your actions. The people who were around me and supporting me through this time suggested that I try doing esteemable acts to boost my self-esteem. At the time, we were talking about something as simple as grocery carts. When I used to go grocery shopping, I used to unload my cart into my car, and then I would just find a place for the cart, perhaps push it over the parking bump or put the wheels into a planter so that the cart wouldn't move. But I was leaving it out for somebody else to clean up. There are shopping cart carols in most grocery store parking lots, and someone suggested that I try to do the esteemable act of putting my grocery carts back in the carol instead of leaving them in the parking lot. And while that might seem like an insignificant step, when I started doing that over and over and over again, I was able to get a little bit of a boost because I had done what I thought was the right thing by putting my grocery cart back. Since then, I've continued to put my grocery cart back, and I still feel a boost of energy every time I do that. Other ways I learned to build my self-esteem include allowing somebody to go ahead of me at the grocery store if they only have a few items, or just smiling at people when I pass them by on the street. One thing that I do on a regular basis that really gives me a little boost is when I'm at a 4-way stop sign, I always let the other person go. It's a positive, generous way of being on the road. And whenever I allow the other person to go, I always feel just a little bit more peaceful and a little bit better about myself. I have found that over time, I have begun to think of myself as a generous person because I do these small acts. And when I think of myself as a generous person, my self-esteem continues to grow. Another way to build your self-esteem is to recognize all the accomplishments that you've achieved so far. Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy talk about this idea of living in the gap or living in the gain. They describe the gap as the place where you look at where you are today and what you focus on is what you haven't done so far. When we live in the gap, we're looking at our deficiencies, and so of course we're going to feel like we're not achieving enough. On the other hand, when we live in the gain, when we look back at where we've been and how we've accomplished things to get to where we are today, we get this energy that fills us up and improves our self-esteem. It allows us to recognize our achievements, recognize our accomplishments, and feel good about ourselves for our accomplishments. A third way to boost your self-esteem is to act as if. Act as if you are already the person that you want to be. So for example, when I sat for the California bar exam, I wore a suit to the exam every single day. And the reason that I did that was because lawyers wear suits, and that was my goal, was to pass the bar and become a lawyer. When I wore a suit to the bar exam, I was acting as though I was already a lawyer and I was just sitting for another exam. Because I was professionally dressed, I was able to address the exam from a more professional place. And I do believe that wearing a suit to the exam helped my focus and attention during that exam. When I elevated my dress for that exam, I was acting as though I was a lawyer and I felt as if I was already there. There are other small steps you can take to improve your self-esteem. Setting goals is a great way to build your self-esteem. And I can encourage you to write your goals down and post them in a place where you can see them. But setting goals and writing them down is not enough. You need to break those goals down into bite-sized pieces and write down all the steps that it's going to take you to achieve your goal. And then set out to take on one small step at a time. Perhaps that step takes a day, or perhaps that step takes a week or a month. But as you continue to take one step after another and get closer to your goal, your self-esteem is going to begin to skyrocket as you get closer and closer to achieving your goal. When you take small steps towards your goal and you take these steps consistently over time, there is a compound effect. And as you take each step, your self-esteem will continue to grow over time. Finally, visualization is a wonderful, easy, relaxing way to improve your self-esteem. I encourage you to take a few moments every day and quiet your mind. Just focus on your breath a little bit and allow your body and your mind to just quiet down a little bit. Then imagine yourself having already achieved that goal. I want you to sink into it. Notice what you see when you're achieving that goal. Notice what you hear. What can you touch, and how does that feel when you're in the moment achieving that goal? Perhaps there's a certain smell in the environment when you've achieved that goal, or a taste. Just really sink in and take about 5 or 10 minutes to just see yourself there. Don't worry about how you're going to get there. If you start to worry about the big picture, it's likely that you'll get overwhelmed and become paralyzed by the thought of going after your goal. Instead, break it down into small chunks that are manageable. One by one, move through those steps. If you take these tiny steps over time, you will get to where you want to go. When you visualize yourself in the role or in the place that you're trying to get to, you're practicing being in that moment. Your mind doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. And so when you practice in your mind being where you want to go, it's almost like setting a GPS. You point in the direction of your goal, you visualize yourself getting there, and your body practices doing the things that you are going to do when you get there. Step into that role today. Practice in your mind. Let's take a look at this diagram of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. If you notice, the arrows go both ways. And so if you want to change the way you feel, you need to change either your thoughts or your actions. While I talk a lot about changing your thoughts to improve the way you feel, sometimes taking action can be the easier way to get to the way you want to feel. Just to recap, if you're trying to improve your self-esteem, try these 5 steps. Number 1, esteemable acts. Number 2, live in the gain rather than in the gap. Number 3, act as if. And number 4, set goals and start taking small steps to achieve them. Finally, visualization is a wonderful, relaxing way to improve your self-esteem. I encourage you to try taking these small steps towards improving your self-esteem. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope these tools are helpful to you. Please let me know how it goes by leaving a comment. Have a great day.